Now, the world isn't waiting for us. That from the Conservative winner of the elections in Germany, Friedrich Merz, as he vowed to get to work today on the arduous task of building a new coalition government. Merz warning against more paralysis in Berlin, as it's expected he will most likely now go on to form a coalition government with the outgoing SPD party. And as Merz continues to vow, he will not work with the far-right AfD party, which has, though, won an historic more than 20% of the vote.
The world out there isn't waiting for us. It isn't waiting for long, drawn-out coalition talks and negotiations. We must now become capable of acting quickly again, so that we can do the right thing domestically, so that we're present in Europe again, so that the world sees Germany is reliably governed once more. And that is what the Union stands for. That is what we stand for, and that is also what I personally stand for.
Well, Europe editor Armen Georgian joins us now from Berlin. Armen, it really is about those coalition talks, isn't it, as Germany moves into this new stage in its history?
Yeah, that's true. And Friedrich Merz says he wants a government in place by Easter. As you mentioned, he said the world can't wait, Europe can't wait. And I can tell you from talking to voters here, Stuart, they are very keenly aware of the international situation and what's at stake, not just for Germany, but also for Europe in this German election that's just taken place. If we also look at the turnout very quickly, 83%, that's the highest since German reunification. So that also gives you a sense of how critical people viewed this election to be and how important it was for them to actually vote. You said, yes, there will be coalition talks. What we're looking at, most analysts think, is the most likely now is a grand coalition of the CDU, CSU and the SPD, which sets up a big paradox because the SPD has suffered a historic loss. It's been relegated to third place for the first time in more than a century, I believe. And yet it's now, because of the way the mathematics works of coalition building, it's now likely to actually be in government again, albeit not under Olaf Scholz as the leader of the SPD. But nonetheless, you have to wonder what voters are going to make of that situation if that is actually confirmed.
Yeah, as you say, third place for the SPD. That's because second place, of course, Armen, was the AfD. Let's hear it from their leader.
Dear friends, we have achieved a historic result. We have never been stronger in the federal government. We have become the second strongest force as the alternative for Germany. And we've now firmly established ourselves as a people's party. We're always extending a hand for government participation to fulfill the will of the people, the will of Germany. We are ready for government participation. Our hand is always outstretched to fulfill the people's will.
So, Armen, that's the AfD leader there. Historic over 20%, Armen. It's unlikely, really, though, isn't it, the AfD is actually going to have any power after all this?
Well, it will have some influence for sure, Stuart, because, you know, they've got a bigger crop of MPs in the German parliament, so they'll have more say on committees relating to issues that they hold dear, particularly things like borders, immigration, as well as crime and foreign policy issues, energy security and so forth. They're looking to have that influence. But overall, I would say, you know, whether you like it or not, this is a huge gain for the AfD. They've doubled, effectively, their vote share from the last election. And this is a party that did not exist 12 years ago. They've now gone to being the second largest party nationally. They've worked to build a coalition nationally to be implanted not only in the former East Germany, where they were previously strong already, but also in the former West Germany, also working on different demographic groups, doing outreach to young people, disaffected young people, rather than just say, poorer, older men, for example. So they've taken their time to try and build a kind of national coalition. Yes, they're going to be excluded from power at the national level, but they'll be looking to influence the conversation nationally. Just one final thing I want to say, Stuart, I would put the surge for the AfD within the broader context of a kind of anti-establishment insurgency, which is not just happening on the radical right, but also on the radical left. If we look at the populist left BSW of Sarah Wagenknecht, they didn't make it into parliament. They just missed the 5% bar. But if you add them up with the left party, Die Linke, which did comfortably clear the bar to get into parliament, together, those two parties have nearly as much overall, if you were to add them up together, as the SPD. So that shows you that there's a very strong challenge to the traditional left from the radical and the hard/populist left. So you have to look at that broader context as well, rather than only looking at the insurgency on the far right.
Armen, thanks very much. Armen Georgian there, our Europe editor, joining us live from Berlin.